I was very fortunate to have a neighbor who was only 2 houses away from mine, who was exactly my same age. We went to different schools, but we had a lot of common interests and we became very close friends because we had the chance to hang out almost every day. Did you grow up with a good neighbor right next to you? We became so close that I became his confirmation sponsor. And every time that my family went on a trip, he came with us like he was part of the family. And when he went on trips, his family also took me with them. And one of the things that brought us together was that we loved playing soccer. He was a goalkeeper, so we would play free kicks. So my parents' garage was the goal. And he would, be the goalkeeper there, and I would kick. I'll tell you something, my mom wasn't very thrilled about our game. The ball slamming the garage. But we spent a lot of time playing soccer together. But the thing that we did the most, and I'm not particularly proud of this, is we loved playing video games. Kids, you gotta be better than me, okay? This is not an excuse for you to play video games. This is an encouragement for you to be better than me. But my neighbor, he was the most talented video game player I've ever seen. We loved playing soccer against each other in video games. And of 10 games that we played, I could beat him once in the best case scenario. And when I went home and I was playing other video games, not soccer related, every time that I faced like the final boss, because you know that video games have levels and each level has its final boss, every time that I was stuck, I'd be like, hey, can you come over? I got a problem with the final boss. I'm not exaggerating. He would come in, he would have never played that video game ever, and he defeated the final boss first time. And I was like, how can you be so good? How is it that you can beat so easily every final boss? What does this have to do with the gospel? Speaking about defeating final bosses, Jesus today displays an amazing power to defeat the final boss, that's death. If you think about it, death is the final boss for everyone. No matter how much money you've made in your life, no matter how healthy you've tried to be in your life, no matter how much time you spent in the gym, how meticulous you were about the food that you had, death is the final boss. And it's the final boss that we all have to face. But Jesus today displays a lordship before the final boss that no one has ever displayed. And Jesus is consistent throughout the Gospels in displaying his lordship over death. Do you guys remember how many times does he resurrect people from the dead? He does this 3 times. He resurrects the son of the widow of Naim. He resurrects the daughter of Jairus. And today he resurrects Lazarus. And have you noticed this interesting detail? With the daughter of Jairus and with Lazarus, he says the same thing about both. He says they're not dead, they're sleeping. What do you mean, Lord? What do you mean they're sleeping? Lazarus was dead for 4 days. There was a stench. Why does Jesus say they're sleeping? You know why Jesus says they're sleeping? Because he has such command over death that it is as easy for him to resurrect someone as it is for us to wake up someone who's sleeping. And do you remember that passage where Jesus walks over the water? That is only another display of his lordship over death, because water is, yes, a sign of life, but water is also a sign of death, because if you spend too much time underwater, you will experience death. So when Jesus walks over water, he is saying, I am Lord of life and death. So the church, almost at the threshold of Holy Week, gives us this text as a foreshadowing of the display that Jesus will do of his lordship over death in Holy Week. Because what the text in the Gospels is saying is, Jesus has defeated the final boss. And this has something to do with our life, because we've noticed that the disciples of Jesus throughout the history of the church have displayed the same lordship over death that Christ did. Especially the martyrs who despise death, because they know that the death of the body is not what matters, but the death of the soul. Now, the interesting thing is that Jesus proves to be Lord of life and death. But what is the attitude of Martha and Mary and the Jews who were consoling Mary? All three of them tell the Lord, if you would have been here, this wouldn't have happened. You know what they were saying? You're late. Where were you? They're trying to tell God, what should God do? They're trying to give lessons to Jesus. Martha and Mary had called Jesus many days back with the expectation that he would come as soon as they called on him. But when he doesn't show up at the time that they call him, when they finally see him, they reprimand our Lord and they say, you should have been here sooner. It's the same attitude that Peter displays when he tells the Lord, Lord, don't say that you shall die in Jerusalem. Keep those teachings away from yourself. And I think this attitude is relatable to our life. Because isn't it true that sometimes you want to tell the Lord, Lord, you're late? Isn't it true that sometimes we want to give lectures to God when God doesn't respond to the way that in time when we call on him? Isn't it true that sometimes we look like Martha and Mary telling God, why don't you show up? You're late. You should have been here sooner. Why have you not responded yet to my calling 4 days ago, or a month ago, or a year ago? So today, brothers and sisters, you know what I see? I see like a gap. The Lord of death and life, and human beings trying to tell him how he should be. Human beings try to tell him, you should be on time when I think it's time for you to come. So I want to finish my homily with a question. Would it be true also for your own life that sometimes you're trying to give God lessons? Is there any aspect of your life where you're telling the Lord, Lord, you're late? By now you should have already responded to what I'm asking of you? In any way are you trying to give God lessons and reprimanding him for not responding when you wanted him to respond? Remember, God's timing is perfect. Jesus knew exactly what he was doing. So today, what's my encouragement? Surrender one more time to God. Remind yourself that he is Lord of life and death. That it only takes him, the words, Lazarus, come out, to bring a dead back to life. Why should we reprimand God when he doesn't respond to our calls? My invitation is, let us surrender to him, having him be Lord of life and death in our own life.